Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today, I am being joined by Greg Meyer. He is the father of four, and one of his daughters has Down syndrome. A couple weeks ago, we were together and we talked about the fact of what it was like finding out her diagnosis, and which they found out during pregnancy, and then all the things that happened right after she was born, and a little bit of the learning curve that went along with that. And then now that she is older than 18, the filing of guardianship. So Greg wanted to come back today because he felt like that really didn't give the whole picture of his daughter or his role as a parent to her. And so today we're going to talk about all the joys of being the father of someone who has a disability. And so, Greg, I'm just going to turn it over to you to get started.
Sure. Thank you, Shelley. And I appreciate you allowing me to come back on. As you said, after we did the first one, I realized that entire discussion was mostly from a parent's point of view. And so rarely do we hear people with Down's kids, or even just special needs kids, talk about it from their point of view. So I thought I'd just give ourselves a chance just to kind of get to know Maddie, because she's a pretty cool person, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I thought I'd start out with something that happened just last Saturday. My She visits me every weekend, and when she was over this last weekend, I have a small one-bedroom apartment. So when she's here, she sleeps in my bed, and I sleep out here on the couch in the living room, and the kitchen's in between. And I was still sleeping on the couch, and I woke up hearing some noise in the kitchen. I knew it was Maddie, and then I hear some laughing. So I get up and I go into the kitchen, and she's standing at the counter with a jug of orange juice. And I bought her these little little orange juice glasses, and she had poured some orange juice in it about halfway, and she was staring down laughing. And I walked in, I said, "Why are you laughing?" And she said, "Look, Dad," and pointing to the counter, she had spilled some orange juice, and she thought it was hilarious. And then she got me laughing, and we spent the next 20 to 30 seconds staring at each other, laughing over something you didn't normally laugh about.
Right.
That's Maddie. That's my experience with my daughter. The
Yeah.
personality she has. Another thing that happened just recently is this was a couple weekends ago. I woke up, put on the coffee, went into my bedroom. She was up already, and she said, "Dad, I'm hungry." I said, "Oh, so on lazy days, I have a box of sausage, egg, and cheese croissants in the freezer for just such an occasion." And that was a lazy day. So I offered her one of those, and she said, "Yeah, that'd be great." So I went into the kitchen to proceed to prepare this for her, and I got distracted. I noticed the counter, I hadn't cleaned it off very well from doing the dishes the night before. So I started doing that. And then for some reason, I turned my attention to the dishwasher. I started emptying the dishwasher, all the while Maddie's patiently waiting for her her breakfast that I promised to get to her. And she waited about 4 or 5 minutes, and then finally she got up and she walked in the kitchen, went straight to the freezer, pulled out a croissant, set it on the counter, and left the kitchen. Didn't say anything, because she knew she didn't need to, and she knew exactly what had happened. And the the two thoughts that came to mind when she did that is, one, oops, how lousy a dad am I? And then the other one was how gracious she was. She could have complained.
Yeah.
She could have come walked right in there, noticed that I'm emptying the dishwasher, and go, "What about the croissant? You
Right.
promised me a breakfast biscuit." She didn't do any of that. That's how gracious she is. Um, Madison's personality, she personifies roll with the punches.
Mm-hmm.
Um, During this COVID, both her mother and I were getting pretty nervous about how she was going to interpret it. What it's going to be, life's going to be like from her perception. And I got to tell you, she hasn't skipped a beat, even from having to do homeschooling until the year was over, to going back from the house to my apartment every weekend. Um, Early on in the COVID, she wanted a cheeseburger. This kid loves cheeseburgers. And I had to explain to her carefully that even though I knew she wanted a cheeseburger, we couldn't go get one. It was going to be not healthy for us, because she knows the word healthy. And she said, okay, no problem. Didn't complain.
Yeah.
That's what I mean when I say roll with the punches. When
Right.
and it wasn't always that way, right? When she was younger, but that's true. That's true for any human being, any kid, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
But the amount of graciousness that she has is, I never get used to it, and I'm often surprised, even though I shouldn't be, because that's how cool a kid she is, and she's very perceptive and picks
Mm-hmm.
up on things really quick. Um, Lately, I've started asking her to work with me to do dishes, and I didn't get any resistance whatsoever anytime. But now it's evolved to either she's finishing up her dinner and offering to help with the dishes, or she's just walking in and I don't have to ask. And so that's really worked out really well. She understands and knows responsibility, teamwork, how to be a good family member, and what her responsibilities and jobs should be. And I'm so
Mm-hmm.
proud of her for that. So then what I did,
Absolutely.
yeah. So what I did is I thought, probably the next natural step is to ask her to help start cooking. And she latched onto that very quickly. The stove is one thing that every parent's worried about.
Oh, sure.
But Maddie's old and wise enough and experienced to know the dangers inherent with cooking on a stove. And a couple weekends ago, we had tacos, and she cooked the entire hamburger with the seasoning and everything entirely by herself. She looked like she knew
Awesome.
what she was doing. And then she
Mm-hmm.
looked at me at one point and said, Dad, I'm a chef. And it was hilarious. Those are the things I want people to know, because only I see them, or only Lisa sees them.
Right.
And we don't think to share those kind of things, but I think it's as important to understand from a parent's point of view what it's like to raise a special needs kids. It's equally as important for others to know all the joy that they bring into our lives. And Maddie does it every single day. She's
Yeah.
taught me a lot. While I've tried to raise her, she's taught me a lot and continues to do so. We were in the car one day, and we were at a stoplight, and the light had turned green, and the person in front of me was texting and not
Sorry,
moving.
I'm smiling because I know this story, so I apologize to the listeners.
No, well, I'm going to make it short too, but at any rate, so all I said was, "Oh, good grief!" And Maddie looked at me and calmly said, "Dad, relax, take it easy. It's okay." And it just, that's what I'm talking about, rolling with the punches. Hardly anything phases her. She's willing to express her points of view. She gets
Mm-hmm.
frustrated like the rest of us, and she's not shy about sharing those frustrations. But again, it's that graciousness in her nature that I admire. It's better than mine. She's more disciplined about being a good human being and friend and family member than I think even I am at times. But and it's so cool to have her reminding me to take it easy,
Mm-hmm.
relax. The world's not going to stop rotating. You know,
Right.
we'll eventually move on, because she knows the lights green and yellow and red, and sometimes the yellow, it'll turn yellow just as I'm approaching, so I'll go through, and she'll look at me and she'll go, Dad. That's all she'll say. I mean, that's how much she comprehends and knows, and
Right.
she's aware of safety, not only for herself, but for, in this case, me too. And
Right.
it's awesome to see how she's grown into this young lady now, and is such a good human being. She's such a good person. To, like I said, not just her family, but her friends, and to be honest with you, everybody that's around her.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's important people are aware of that, or at least understand or know that, because when I found out she was diagnosed for Downs before she was born, I my head clicked in. Um, what was this going to be like? I did some research. I focused on all the horrible negative things,
Right.
fear of the unknown, right?
Yeah.
And so thankfully, what that evolved into very quickly was a complete opposite experience. The joy that she brings into our lives every single day never ceases to astound me. It's just now I think it's cool to be a father of a special needs kid, where I was frightened to death before all this evolved the way that it did.
Yeah. And you and Lisa and Maddie taught me so much about true unconditional love, and how you accepted me into your family, and just kind of what you're talking about, Maddie, that you all just rolled with the punches, and you took each day as a new day, and you figured it out. And I've been so blessed and privileged to be part of her upbringing and to be part of your lives, as well as all of the other students that I have worked with over the years. I have said to many people many times, I think I taught my students less than what I learned from them. Because if you take the opportunity to get to know anyone, no matter what the difference is between you and that person, you're most likely going to learn and find out how great that individual is. And I'm so thankful that God led me down the road of becoming a special education teacher. I've fallen in love with all of my students, and some of the families like yourselves that have just brought me in as a member of your family. Has just been a wonderful experience. I have to say, when you started to tell the story about being in the car with her, that was not the one I thought you were going to tell.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were going to tell the one about your favorite color. Do you remember that story?
No. Is that the one? You know what? I don't. Do you remember it?
I remember it. I don't know that I remember all of the details, but you and Maddie were, I think, again, sitting at an intersection, and you saw a truck, and you said something like, "Wow, I love that color of that truck."
Oh, yeah. Keep
So you
going.
remember?
Yeah.
No, you tell it because it's your story. I'll get it wrong.
No, because I don't remember it in its entirety. But that was a very joyful exchange. And it seems more often than not, while we have those kind of very positive exchanges throughout the day, every day, it seems like in the car, because we're both kind of captivated, that it happens even more often than just hanging out in the apartment or going shopping or what have you. So, but yeah, that one was because you're talking about because I was colorblind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but I can't remember how it ended though. But I just remember laughing to myself because when you're colorblind, hardly anybody remembers if they're not colorblind, right?
Right.
But Maddie remembers. She knows.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm her father, so why wouldn't she, right? But
yeah, it was something about you. You saw this truck. You said you thought what a cool truck it was, and she was like, "Okay," and you said, "That's my favorite color," and I think she said brown.
Yeah.
And we were like, "No, that's not brown. That's red. Is that the color you see instead of brown?" And she was like, "No, Dad, you're colorblind. That's brown."
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I get frustrated when people have to point that out to me. Before we got into lockdown at the office a while back, somebody built this very elaborate spreadsheet, and it was color coded. And I opened it up and took one look, and I was like, so how do I share? I got frustrated. But when Maddie pointed that out that day in the truck, I got joy out of that. I didn't get frustrated. Maddie makes everything easier anyway. But now I do remember that exchange.
Yeah.
And that happened all the time.
Yeah. So what kind of big experiences? I know Lisa was the one to take her to some of like the concerts and stuff, but what kind of bigger experiences that you want to share that you've done or that your family has done?
So I guess what comes to mind is we took a Disney cruise, and this was back when Maddie was really little, and we stopped at I think it was St. Martin's, and we did the little tour that you do when you're at a port. And Maddie and I got tired sooner than her sister and her mother, so they elected to stay and do some shopping while Maddie and I just went back to the boat. And we went into the cabin, and this one's going to seem not joyous, but it actually ended up wonderful. And I don't know if I told this story on the last one, but
No, I don't think you did.
okay. We went back to the cabin, and I got her situated on the bed with the TV on, and I needed to use the restroom. So I went in, used the restroom. I wasn't gone more than like 30, 40 seconds. And I come out, and she's nowhere to be found. She's gone. She left the cabin. And I'm freaking out. So I go out in the hallway, and I look all the way down one end and all the way down the other, and there's no Maddie. And you can imagine the things that race through my mind, right? So the one good thing about Disney is once you report someone's missing on the ship, they have this whole elaborate strategy where they take a lot of their employees and they start at both ends of the ship, and they work themselves in between. And
Okay.
yeah, it's very efficient. Well, I had a beeper on, and they said, just stay in your cabin and monitor your beeper. And as soon as we find her, we'll buzz you. Well, there was no way I was going to be sitting in that cabin, Yeah. By the way, Lisa and her sister are still on the island and have no idea what I'm going through.
Oh, yeah. So and you're not going to tell them because you don't want them to worry.
Right. Yeah. At least while it's happening. So any rate, I didn't stay in the cabin. I started walking around. I had a baggy pair of shorts on. They had found her almost instantaneously and buzzed me, but I didn't feel it. And then finally, I called just to see what was going on because I was freaking out. And they said, yeah, she's sitting here in the daycare waiting for you. She even asked for you. So I'm like, immediately, no heart attack. I go back down there. And so I said, where was she? And they said, oh, she was just sitting at the end of a set of stairs between one deck to the other. And when we found her, she was like, hi, how's it going?
Yeah.
And
she wasn't worried. She knew where she was.
and when I made it to, the daycare, I ran up to give her a big, huge hug. And she goes, hi, Dad. How's it going? Like, yeah. No big deal. So yeah. That's what I say. Roll with the punches. Very little phases her. When it does, you know about it. But right. Those are more and more infrequent, and they were never the majority. It was always the exception.
Right.
The norm. So
yeah.
But yeah, that was an interesting trip. Other than that, though, we had a blast on that boat.
That's good. What was her favorite thing? Do you remember?
There?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the kids' water park.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, because it was hot,
So yeah. And she does like to be in the water.
Oh, that kid loves water.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's what we do. In the winter, we go bowling because it's good for her midriff muscles. And we both love bowling, which there's stories there too, I could tell. But anyway.
And no, I was just going to ask you to tell who wins more games, you or her.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm still edging on her, but it's getting close.
Yeah, she's got a pretty good average. Is she in 3 digits, or she's still upper 80s or 90s?
She's still upper 90s is what she's worked up to, but she gets 3 digits more and more frequently now. And it's hilarious because when she first started getting a strike, it was like a party, she was overwhelmed. And now, anymore, when she gets a strike, she says, your turn, Dad.
Yeah, no big deal. I do this on a regular basis now.
Right.
Yeah. See if you can do it, Dad.
Right. And that's the other thing is, I wouldn't say she's not competitive. I would say she is. But it's for her, whether it's me or her that end up with the higher score, she could care less. Right. She does bother. She knows enough when she sees my scores, if they're higher than normal, she's like, good job, Dad. You're amazing.
Yeah. She likes to tell you that you're amazing, I think.
All the time. She probably said 3 or 4 times just this last weekend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So you took a trip with her a couple summers ago, or maybe it was just last summer, to a water park.
It was just last summer. It was Holiday World.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was amazing. That was awesome. We did it up right. I rented a cabin and we got a golf cart. And the cabin's right next to the park, and we stayed up late one night, I remember, and we ate dinner late. And she woke up before me, and I just told her, "Dad's exhausted. I got to sleep some more." And she said, "Okay." And then she went, "Dad, can you turn the TV on?" Because the TV was mounted way up high.
Oh.
And I didn't think I should have, but I put the remote up where the TV's mounted. So I got up and I got her TV on, and she goes, "Thanks, Dad. Go back to bed." And went back to bed. Where most kids, when you're doing something like that, they're chomping at the bit to get back to the park to ride all the rides.
Yeah.
Didn't phase her a bit. She cut her dad some slack, let me sleep in a little. That's the stuff I want people to know about her.
Right. And she has always had a great personality. I remember teaching her. Everyone in the school loved her. Everyone in the school knew her. And I remember once Lisa told me that, I don't know if you were both in the Veterans Day parade, but I know Lisa said she was in it and had Maddie on the float with her. Mm-hmm. And as you were in a different town than where you live, but still within our county.
Right.
But as you're going down through the parade route, people are yelling at Maddie and, "Hey, Maddie, how are you doing?"
Yeah. And I had no idea. And she knew who they were. She'd say hi back. Yeah. I had volunteered to tow the float with my truck, and the plan was to put Maddie in the cab with me. But one of the Legionnaires suggested, "Well, why don't you just throw Maddie up here?" Because her mom was on the float as well. So we put her on there, and of course had the windows down. And it just astounded me how many people hollered out, "Hey, Maddie." I mean, people, I had no clue who they were. And Maddie just waved back like, "Yay, how's it going? Good to see you again." And yeah, that's the kind of influence my daughter has to our community as a whole. It was amazing.
Yeah. And I'm, again, very, very blessed and very privileged to have been part of getting her known, and being able to have her be with her peers often in her elementary school years. And like I said, it didn't matter if the person was a teacher, an administrator, a student, custodian, cook. Everybody knew her, and everybody loved her. Now, I don't know if that transferred when she got into high school, because then, I didn't have the daily experiences with her anymore, but I certainly know at the elementary level. And then she became a cheerleader.
Yeah.
So then she was known, even from other school districts, because when they would come and see her cheering. So what was her cheering like for you?
She was a rock star. She loved to cheer too. She loved to cheer. And I think the coolest thing about that whole experience is, well, I keep saying that she's got such a gracious personality. Those kids, and not just the cheerleading team, the student body as a whole, were so gracious and thoughtful of Madison. I remember a couple times she had an appointment, so I had to take her to school. It was actually to your class. And just walking down the hallway, I don't think there was a single person that we didn't walk by that didn't bother to say, "Hey, Maddie, how are you?" Mm-hmm. It's very comforting to witness those kinds of things.
Yeah.
There is another good story I don't think I've told, but a few years back, I took on a stretch assignment that had me living in an apartment at Oklahoma City while my family remained here. The plan was 2 weeks there at Oklahoma City and then come back and work a week remotely from home. Well, that never happened. I don't think it was ever 2 weeks. It was always more. But any rate, so naturally I would get lonely, and I talked to Lisa about, well, hey, this next summer, how about her spend the summer with me? And of course, she was okay with that. So the first summer that I was in that situation, I went back, I got her, we made the trip. That's another thing. She's an awesome traveler. Um,
Mhm.
but for whatever reason, it was too much too soon. So that only lasted a couple days, and it broke my heart. But I had to get her back home, and
Yeah.
so um, uh, it wasn't right for her. She didn't feel comfortable. But the next summer, I talked to Lisa, and we decided, well, let's give this thing another shot. But this time, I'll be prepared to take her back right away.
Right.
And it was like a whole different experience because I had a 2 bedroom, so she's like, "That's my bedroom, right, Dad?" And she's putting her stuff in, and um, we had our meals and stuff. I had to put her in daycare, and I was a little worried about that because she's been in the same daycare her entire life, and this was going to be a completely new experience. I did go to the daycare to sign her up naturally, but also to carefully explain before I had even brought her to Oklahoma City, what she's about. And they had no problem with it. They had other special needs kids. So I just said, okay, well, we're going to have to play this by ear. And they're like, bring her on. And I don't think it took 2 days. And she was a rock star again with all the kids there. And they, at the end, two of the care providers gave her a hug and then gave me a hug and expressed how much dismay they're having because they know Maddie's leaving and probably not going to come.
Oh,
So
I
it was,
didn't know that part. That's
yeah,
wonderful.
that was very touching.
Yeah, she definitely leaves her mark on people's hearts. And at one point, another teacher that worked in the same building with us was joining us this morning. I don't know if they're still on or not, but she wasn't one of Maddie's teachers, but just a teacher in the building. And like I said, it didn't matter if it was a teacher of Maddie's or if it was just another teacher in the building, but everybody knew her and everybody loved her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I can remember there were very few male teachers or male employees, to be honest, in our district. And she she definitely glommed on to a couple of the male teachers. She definitely had her teenage crushes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember, I think she was a seventh or eighth grader. Well, I know she was a seventh or eighth grader. I just don't remember which year she was exactly. And she just wasn't having a good day. And I tried all the things that always got her motivated, and nothing was working. And so I was like, okay, I got to think outside the box. What else can I try? So I went to one of the male teachers that I knew she had the crush on.
Mm-hmm.
And he happened to be the dean of students at the time too. And so I said, okay, she's not working, she's not cooperating. What would you do if this was somebody from the general ed population? And he said, well, I'd have to have a stern talking with them. They might get a detention, whatever. And I said, okay. So that's what I thought. So I said, what if I bring her to you? Can you be stern with her just like you would, anybody else in the building? And he was like, ooh, I don't know. And I said, I need you because I think, if you talk to her, she'll turn her get turned around and we'll get some stuff done from her today.
Yeah.
So he did. He talked to her, and he used his stern voice, and that turned her around. But when I talked to him later, he said, that was the hardest thing I've ever had to do because she is so sweet and so loving all the time. To have to be stern with her was just one of the hardest things. And so I knew at that point, he didn't have kids at the time, but I knew whenever he had his own little girl, she was going to have him wrapped around her fingers. And she does. But
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. I remember that day specifically
Mm-hmm.
because we had such a good line of communication, which we don't have that consistent communication at our high school like we did in elementary. And I got to tell you, speaking from a parent's perspective, that was so comforting to know I could go to work and I know I would be contacted, as things go on. But the other thing is, and I understand how he felt that day because, as you know, I'm accused of spoiling her, and she's me wrapped around her little finger too. But it's because those kind of things are so rare with her,
Right.
that after you get over the part of being surprised that it's happening,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's hard because you try to take a different approach, just as he did.
Right.
And thankfully it worked out there, and for the most part it does with us as well. But her mother has always been the one that took the hard line, and I was always the one that got accused of spoiling her. And I admit it, and I'm not ashamed of it. Should I be doing it? I probably should have a better mix going on, but I'm not ashamed of it.
Yeah, no, I mean she's a wonderful person. Like you said at the beginning of this, she is 20 now, and she's very compassionate. She's very helpful. She's turned into, just this wonderful young lady. And I'm sure that was, the combination of your parenting style and her mother's parenting style and the school settings that she's been in. And, that truly it takes a village kind of attitude to raise a child. And yeah, and the world is definitely a better place because she is in it.
Mm-hmm.
And because for those of us who have had the opportunity to get to know her, we are definitely better people for knowing her. So we've been live for over 30 minutes. So I mean, we can continue to talk about her. But if you feel like, you're good for today, we can do this another time if you want, or not. So is there anything else that any big stories or anything that you really want to make sure that the audience, whether they're watching live now or they watch the replay of it, is there anything else you want them to know?
So first off, I think we achieved the objective,
Mm-hmm.
which was important to me. So I think we're good there. I will provide a final comment, kind of touching on what you had just mentioned too, that it takes a village. It's exactly what I was thinking when you were saying it. But well, I know there is things I did and imparted to Maddie to make her the person she is, as did her mother, and quite frankly, you and the other faculty members and people that surround her environment. I think the key thing that we did very well is we worked very hard all together to see to it that Maddie was set up for success. And I think Maddie got a lot of that because she watched how we did that, how we interacted, and how committed we were. And that was probably an unintended byproduct, but I'm so happy it turned out that way. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, thank you, Greg, for joining me again today. And thank you to everyone who popped in with us live, and anyone who is joining the replay of this. If you have any questions, as always, just reach out to me, put it in this thread. We did have Isabella Patterson say hi at the beginning. I'm guessing that's someone you know, because it's not someone I know. So, so hello to Isabella, and thank you again for joining us today. Continue to follow me for tips and behavior ideas and strategies if you need any help with extended school year right now, or just preparing for the fall and things that we need to do in the fall. We want to. I know school just got out, but we want to start preparing for that kind of stuff ahead of time. Again, thank you, Greg, and again, just thank you for allowing me to be a part of your life for the last, 15 years, I think 15, 14, something like that. And, for the foreseeable future, I hope. So
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Have a great day. And when you get Maddie next time, make sure to tell her Kino says hi.
I will do that.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.